Shalom, shalom family. This is Yasharala coming back with another lesson. So before we jump in, just want to give all glory and praises to the Most High Yahweh in the name of His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai. So today we're going to be jumping into a very, very important topic that I feel like a lot of people can't really dissect. And today we're going to be looking at the scientific proof and the proofs in nature that we can find of that prove that the Most High is the creator, the way how creation is explained in the Torah and in the scriptures and the laws in the scriptures. We're going to elaborate how nature embodies the very words of the Most High. So, jump in because today's going to be a blockbuster banger of a lesson, to edify and to grow our faith in the Almighty and actually His word. So I want to jump into the scripture before we go anywhere else. The Wisdom of Solomon 9 verse 1. It says, O Yah of my fathers and Yahweh of mercy, who has made all things with thy word. So the reason why I'm bringing out this scripture is to show now how the words of the Most High are embodied in all of creation. All of creation embodies the words of the Most High. So we're going to, first thing, we're going to look at the moon
also at the new
and the
moons, because they are basically also the how the Most High distinguishes ordinary days from holy days. And since the beginning of creation, the Most High also says that in the end times, from one new moon to another, all creation will come before Him and will worship before Him. So we're also going to take a look now at the impact of the moon and the new moons and the full moons, what the impact they have on creation.
If there is one space object that is closest to humans and integrated into our lives, it is the moon. If you look up at the sky at night, you will see a bright moon. The moon is not simply a celestial beauty, but its impact on our Earth and the change it causes on our Earth is amazing. The ocean waves and the moon are inseparable. It is a good fortune for mankind to be watching the full moon and sea waves together from the beach at the end of the evening. At the same time, it would be much more amazing and enjoyable if you knew the science behind it. What is the reason for the effect of sea waves on the full moon and new moon days? Why is the sea inundated twice in the same day in many places? What is the relationship between ocean waves and the moon? Besides that, another one space object plays the role of ocean tides. What is that? Let's see. Many of us don't know the difference between waves and tides. If the wind blows fast on the land, it hits the soil particles on its surface and creates dust layers at that place. Similarly, when the wind hits the surface of the sea, it vibrates the seawater up and down, causing it to rotate and form waves. These waves move from the center of the ocean towards the coast according to wind speed. Usually this wave is 1.5 meters to 3 meters high. Tides mean the rising and falling of the water level of the sea. When the sea level rises, it is called high tide. When it falls, it's called low tide. If you've ever been to the ocean, you wouldn't know the difference, but those who live by the ocean side know it well. High tide and low tide occurs twice a day. Well, why does the sea level rise and fall? The moon is a significant cause of these formations. The moon orbits around the Earth due to our Earth's gravity. There is a tidal force between the Earth and the moon, and it is due to this force that it becomes tidally locked and rotates continuously. This tidal force is responsible for the formation of tides on Earth. In other words, just as the Earth attracts the moon attracts the Earth. Earth's gravitational pull is greater, causing the moon to orbit around. The moon's gravity is much smaller than that of the Earth's, but it has little effect on the Earth. That's bulging, which makes the Earth swell a little. Earth's surface is 70% made of water, and that water is drawn to the moon. Whichever side the moon orbits around the Earth experiences the bulging effect of the moon. High tide occurs when the bulges are high, and low tide occurs where it is low. So in 24 hours, when the Earth completes one complete rotation, high tide occurs twice, and low tide occurs twice. Of course, in reality, the Earth isn't a smooth ball, so tides are also affected by the presence of continents, the shape of the Earth, the depth of the ocean in different locations, and more. The timing and heights of the tide near you will be affected by those additional elements. We think high tide occurs only on the full moon, but the truth is that both the tides and waves are high during the full moon or the new moon. The reason for this is not only the moon, but also the sun. The main cause of these bulges on Earth is usually the moon, but the sun also plays a role. The sun is the reason there are more waves and tides, especially during the full moon and new moon days, than on other days. Just as the impact of the moon causes a bulge on the Earth, similarly the sun, which is several thousand times more massive, also causes a bulge on the Earth. On normal days, the influence of the moon is more. But what is special about full and new moon days is that the Earth, sun, and moon are all aligned in a straight line. At that time, the bulging caused by the moon and the bulging caused by the sun is combined, resulting in greater bulges than on other days. If the Earth is between the sun and the moon, it is a full moon. If the moon is between the sun and the Earth, it is a new moon. Because these two are in the same straight line during the event, there are more waves and tides. This phenomenon is called spring tides. Another phenomenon is neap tide. This means there will be few waves and tides. When the moon is perpendicular to the sun and the Earth, the bulges caused by the sun and those caused by the moon balance each other, so the tides are lower than on other days. Many people think there is no moon during the new moon, so the moon's gravity is less on that day, and during full moon, the moon is brighter, so the gravity is higher, and the tides in the ocean are higher. Even during the new moon, the moon is there, but our eyes do not see it because the sun's light didn't fall on the other side of the moon. The moon always orbits around the Earth, whether it is visible to our eyes or not. Its gravitational pull is always the same. But on full and new moon days, the tides and waves are higher than on other days due to the sun's gravitational pull. This is how the seawater level falls in many places of the world, exposing more areas of beaches. The seawater then rises and covers larger areas, which disappear into the sea. Now, we may be concerned that since the Earth's surface is made up of 70% water and the moon impacts
𝐤𝐄𝐄𝐄. This is evidence that the Most High is real and that even nature obeys the laws of the Most High. This is just after the full moon, showing you how the ocean and nature behaves on the appointed times of the Most High.
Parasites love pigs, okay? And they carry numerous parasites. And study after study proves this. In fact, according to a CDC study, they said pork is the primary source of trichinosis infections in the entire world. It's also one of the top for tapeworms, according to the World Health Organization and CDC. It's one of the top sources of toxoplasmosis. And from a biblical standpoint, when you read Leviticus 11:7-8, here's what it says. And the pig, because it parts the hoof and is cloven-footed, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. You shall not eat any of their flesh, and you shall not touch their carcasses, for they are unclean. So there are so many reasons not to eat pork. Pork carries parasites. Pork has poor detox channels. The Bible recommends you not eat it. Science supports this. Functional medicine lens, pork is also very high in omega-6 fatty acids. It doesn't have omega-3, so it's inflammatory just in terms of their tissues themselves. There are a lot of reasons not to consume
so Wigner
pork.
wrote the paper as late as 61, you said.
Yes, the unreasonable effectiveness. And I said, what do you mean unreasonable? What is the worldview that's driving that verdict? And that opened a whole world to me that wasn't apparent in terms of its significance until the last 10 years or so, when I saw how powerful it is. Because one of the things now that I say to people is my main reason for not being an atheist as a scientist is not that I'm a Christian, it's because I can do science. Because the only thing that makes reasonable the effectiveness of mathematics is my faith in God.
That's a very radical statement.
It's a very radical statement.
One almost never hears that statement, even from people speaking on the very subject on which we're speaking. That you're saying that not only are science and God compatible, You're saying, no, in a way that's wrong. They're not merely compatible. Science drives you to believe in God.
That's right. Let me make it even more provocative, because I can tell that you're quite a provocative guy and I like it. You see, let me put it this way. I think, and I believe there's evidence for the fact that faith in God and science sit very comfortably, as they did in the minds of Galileo, Kepler, and Newton. What doesn't fit together is science and atheism. I think that atheism undermines science for a reason that is connected with the effectiveness of mathematics.
So we should properly be challenging atheists far more than they challenge people of faith.
Well, that's right. And I can unpack that a little bit,
Yeah.
if you like,
Yeah.
because it is a major argument these days. You see, we have this trust as scientists, as mathematicians, in human reason. We rely on our human reason to get to our conclusions. Now, in the 1940s, C.S. Lewis was writing about this, and I think people didn't really grasp what he was saying. What he was saying is this. He said, any theory of mind that undermines the validity of human reason cannot be true, because you reach that theory by reasoning.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, this is another
Yes.
heavy one. I want to pause.
Yes, it's beautiful.
These are big ideas, but they're very, very important ideas. He phrased it in such a way, Lewis did, at some point, I can't remember the exact quote, but he says, if the universe made no sense, or if the universe were absurd, if the universe made no sense, we should never have discovered that. We never would be able to discover that.
That is part of it. That goes down to the root of it. And the reason for it, and he put it brilliantly, but it wasn't in the center of the big debate, not to the extent it is today. Because what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years is that a very prominent atheist is beginning to use Lewis's arguments. And that has changed the balance completely.
And who is that?
It's Thomas Nagel.
In New York City.
In New York City,
NYU.
that's right. That's right. But if you like, I'll backtrack a bit so that we can unpack this so that it makes a kind of sense.
Yeah.
Lewis is suggesting that if you undermine the validity of reason, your theory's wrong. Now, I'm suggesting that that's why 𝐉𝐤𝐄𝐄 said mathematics is unreasonably effective, because his worldview, which was atheistic, followed to its logical conclusion, actually destroys rational thought.
Yes.
Now, let me put it in the form of a discussion I frequently have. I tease people.
That's pretty mind-blowing. The fact that most people are forced to believe or led to believe that, science and belief in God is incompatible, when we have this scientist here from Oxford, confirming and confessing that the very first scientists and, founders of some of the core scientific principles that are kind of the foundation of modern science were all people that believed in God and people that believed in the lawgiver, or in law in nature, and they anticipated that laws in nature because they believed in the Almighty, and He is the ultimate lawgiver, which I think is quite profound. I think that is something that will go over most people's heads. So, there's definitely a concerted effort, from the scientific general consensus to steer us not to believe in the Almighty God, when there's so much scientific evidence that is being purposely buried for us not to be aware of this. So, Mr. John Lennox, you pointed out the fact that mathematics is irrational and illogical, and mathematics shouldn't work based off of based off of the fact that mathematics is pure concept based and consciousness, and off of that, science has also proven that reality is based off of mathematical principles. So we're going to take a look at some of these mathematical principles that are embodied within nature. But before we do that, I'm first going to look at a first couple of verses. Job chapter 12 verse 7, as well as the book of Second Esdras as well. So this is the book of Job. Ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee, or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth that in all these that the hand of Yahweh wrought this? So we can see that Scripture tells us that if anyone is in doubt, that they should ask the earth and the fowl and the beasts of the sea the beasts of the earth, and it will declare who has made it. So that's what we're doing. We're taking a look at some of the things in nature that is witness, and in science that is witness of the Most High's creation. So now we're going to also look at some of the scientific, or like the geometric codes, or the mathematical codes in gematria that is encoded in the book of Genesis, that we also find in our DNA as well.
God. Hebrew reads from right to left. The ordinal value is the numerical order of each letter in the alphabet. The standard value is the numerical value for each letter. Each letter also represents a number, since there are no number characters in Hebrew. Looking at Genesis 1:1, we can find the sum of all the words. Then the entire verse. Adding these values, we get 2,701. The only two factors that create this number are 37 and 73. After calculating the ordinal value, we get 298. We will remember these numbers for later. There has been an amazing discovery after looking at prime numbers. These are the ordinal values of the 7 words in Genesis. We will use these numbers to find the matching prime number. Adding these numbers give 1323. Now see how the 37 and 73 play into an alternative solution for 1323. The reciprocal of 3773 is found by the following. The long number displayed actually repeats itself to infinity, but the first cycle gives the number 1323. There are 294 digits in the answer. If we add the number of digits in 3773, we find the ordinal value of Genesis 1:1. Genesis speaks of the creation of the natural world. How does this relate to the atom? Look closely. The following is the limit of subshells in each 7 shells. Again, the order found in the index prime numbers. as you might have predicted, 1323. Now if we look for the value of God created the heavens and the earth, we find the number 1998. Jesus is said to be the author of life and creator. His value is 754. Using division, we get the following. This number also goes on to infinity. Just like God's immeasurable qualities, another miracle of Scripture that is beyond all explanation. In order to understand this video, you will have to familiarize yourself with the number 37, which is explained in prior videos.
Some mind-blowing information there, fam. How reality is encoded within the Torah. We see there the code of the in Genesis, adding up the sacred numbers 37 and 73, and how those numbers are also encoded within the very elements that compose our DNA, and also how the numbers that are in the Torah are also encoded within atoms itself, within the electron shells of atoms. So, the entire energy, that quantum field of energy that gives birth to reality as we see it, is encoded within the Torah. And I think that is pretty mind blowing. Yeah, so just going to bring out another scripture here from the book of Second Esdras. So I think if you're not mind blown already, then you should be. It reads here, yea, and the Spirit of Almighty Yah, which made all things. So, Spirit is the energy. So that is just the divine energy that gives life to all things as we know it, even an atom, from the smallest little things, and everything is composed of atoms. So the Most High is just everything, man. Damn. So here's just like some illustration of some of the sacred geometric or divine patterns. So these are just manifestations of how energy manifests into the physical. The Most High vibrates at a particular energy, and that energy field then oscillates and gives birth to mass. So that's what gives things their mass. So this is also just another illustration of how the Most High's name is also encoded in our DNA, like the two bridges of our RNA. Their DNAs are composed of two RNA strands, and those RNA strands are held together by sulfuric bridges, what they call. And those bridges appear in the exact same sequence, 10, 6, 5, 6, the exact same sequence as the name of the Most High in the Torah. That's also not a coincidence. So It's also more proof of how everything in our reality is just encoded within the Torah. This next slide here reminds me of one of my favorite scientists, Nikola Tesla, who was so badly ridiculed, but he said that everything, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So everything in the universe consists of energy, and here this is just an illustration showing you that goodness, truth, and love, which is the energy and the vibration that the Most High vibrates on, is the most the highest vibration, and that is the vibration that tends towards creativity, and also tends towards creation, and it doesn't lead towards decay, like where um, less vibrational frequencies tend towards decay. We are also energy as well, and we are also batteries as well, living batteries, and batteries consist of poles, a positive pole and a negative pole, and basically everything in the universe is electromagnetic, is electric or either magnetic, and everything has positive or either negative poles, a positive side of your brain, a negative side of your brain, which is I think that is interesting. But I want to just bring out this particular 10 ways to increase your life force energy, which one of them is grounding, to be in nature, sunlight, and breath work, plant-based foods, especially fruits, get enough sleep, rest, meditation, lift weights, movement, positive affirmation, love, kindness, compassion, and sharing, dancing and laughter, semen retention. But specifically breath work, I want to specifically highlight that. Why would breath work increase our life force? And one reason for that could be because the very fact that we are breathing pays homage to the Most High, like Psalms 120 verse 8. It says there that all things that have breath, that it praise the Most High. So the very fact that we can breathe honors the Most High. If you can take a moment to pause and read the slide, it even says there that the name of the Most High is breathing consonants. Even if you breathe in Yah, Wah, Yah, Wah, Yah, Wah, Yah, Wah. There you can clearly hear that through breathing in and out, that whether you want to or not, you have to say the Most High's name, which I think is quite profound. So now these next couple of slides, we're just going to look at why some of the positions of atheism, what makes it ridiculous, and we're also going to look at some of the archaeological discoveries that have solidified the Bible as a true historical account, and the account of Exodus as a valid history, and it being validated in the archaeological record. So hold on for that. So here in just a short video, it also just shows you how a man that is on the operating table, how he's dying, and how his spirit is leaving his body. That is also proof that the scriptures is also the only book as well that speaks of the spirit and of the soul. It speaks of the things of the higher dimensions, not just the things of the physical planes. So that shows you that the Bible ultimately is of divine origin, whether people want to believe it or not.
Watch how this professor destroys evolution theory.
Evolution is based on 4 major ideas. None of them have ever been observed. Number 1, that life comes from non-life. We have not one single example of life coming from non-life. Number 2, that all the life forms that we have today came from single-cell life forms. Many people do not know that while we do have single-cell life forms that we call bacteria, We have no 2-cell life forms. We don't have 3-cell life forms. We don't have 4-cell life forms. We don't even have 5-cell life forms. That is, you go from single-cell bacteria to complex life forms. So there's no evidence that all life comes from single-cell life forms. The third postulate of evolution is that time and chance drive evolution forward, of course, and time works against evolution. The chance of one simple 100-unit protein coming together by accident this is a very big number. Time and chance make evolution absolutely impossible. The fourth postulate that evolution is based on is that what we see today, minor genetic variation in species, is evidence of macroevolution. So because cats are different colors, dogs are different sizes, that means that fish turned into cows. And of course, we know that that's not true because Mendel proved that all the genes that exist today, you can shuffle them around, but there are no new genes.
You may remember, if you were in our archaeology sessions, that there is evidence that Semitic tribes actually moved at this time to Canaan, or to Egypt from the land of Canaan. This is called the Beni Hassan painting. It was discovered in 1964, not far from Saqqara, Egypt, which is just south of where the Great Pyramids are. And it's in a tomb of a pharaoh or a king who reigned from 1911 BC to 1870 BC. You can see these brightly colored robes. These are Semitic tribes making their way from the land of Canaan, what we now call Israel, to Egypt. And it depicts pastoral, nomadic Semites migrating to Egypt with children and livestock in tow. Elsewhere here in Genesis, it says that the Egyptians considered the shepherds to be lower class. They could never be shepherds. So these people are shepherds bringing livestock into the area, and they're dressed as Semites. They're not dressed as Egyptians. So archaeologists go, yeah, this is a migration of people coming from the land of Canaan to Egypt.
You just mentioned Egypt. Let's go on over to Egypt now. And there's something that's been discovered called the Brooklyn Papyrus. And you're wondering, why is it called the Brooklyn Papyrus? It's from Egypt, and because it's in a museum in Brooklyn. Is that the case? And what is it, Titus?
Yeah, Papyrus Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn Museum. They actually funded some archaeological work, and then they published this particular papyrus. But this is it's a list. So it doesn't sound super exciting. List of a bunch of names. They're old servants in Egypt from the 17th century BC, kind of think time of Joseph. But when you look at the names, we see a couple of really interesting and important things. First of all, it shows how these people had their names changed to an Egyptian name, or they were given an Egyptian name, just like Joseph was. But then if we look at the original names, a bunch of them are what we would call Semitic. So this is the greater language family to which Hebrew belongs. About 30 of the 95 names we can see are Semitic. But when we look at those Semitic names, there are 9 that we could call biblical Hebrew names. That's extremely important because this helps to establish that there were Hebrews prior to the Exodus. And that's really one of the main points of evidence that I would say helps us to be able to document, look, there were Hebrews or Israelites in Egypt before the Exodus, just as we get from the book of Exodus.
See, we have a visual representation of the Israelites coming, and then there are names in something called the Brooklyn Papyrus. Does anyone know where the name Shipra, what that connects to? The Hebrew midwives that said, oh, these Hebrews, they give birth too quickly, Pharaoh. We can't kill all the children, all the male children. They've given birth before we ever get there. Shipra was one of the names. Also Issachar, one of the sons of Jacob. That name is in the Brooklyn Papyrus. It's called Brooklyn Papyrus because it's in Brooklyn, New York. Please send it back. I need it. It came from here, but it's housed in that museum.
So you got the visual depiction of it, as he said, from 1876 BC, and then you've got names written in the Brooklyn Papyrus a little bit later when they're slaves, and so you have connections from Egypt that the Hebrews came here and were enslaved.
We are on the other side of the Valley of the Kings. The kings are buried on the other side of this mountain. On this side are noble people that weren't kings, but were high officials. One high official was 𝐤𝐄𝐄𝐄, who happened to be second in charge to both Thutmose III, who was the king or the pharaoh that wanted Moses dead, and Amenhotep II, his son, who became the pharaoh and was the pharaoh of the Exodus. Inside this tomb we're going to go into, we're going to see evidence of slaves making straw bricks right at the time of the Exodus. Let's take a look. We're in the 𝐤𝐄𝐄𝐄 tomb, just on the other side of the Valley of the Kings. This is where they buried nobles about the time of the Exodus. In fact, this tomb is thought to have been completed in 1450 BC, 4 years prior to the Exodus. This tomb was for the second in charge of both Thutmose III and Amenhotep II. Thutmose III is the pharaoh that wanted Moses dead. Amenhotep II is the pharaoh of the Exodus, and in this tomb you have Semitic, or at least non-Egyptian slaves making mud bricks right at the time of the Exodus. This tomb has a connection to the Bible, and if you're going to say that the Bible is wrong about these people being enslaved, you also have to say that Egypt is wrong about these people being enslaved. Remember how Pharaoh talked about the fact that he wanted to keep the quota up, even though the Hebrews now were going to have to go out and get their own straw. We're not going to provide the straw. You go find it and then keep making the bricks. Was there a brick-making quota? Well, actually, there's evidence there was. This, called the Louvre leather roll, because it's in the Louvre Museum in Paris, comes from about 1274 BC. And what does this thing say? It shows brick-making quotas in Egypt. In fact, one quota was the fact that they had to make 2,000 bricks per day. That's a lot of bricks, especially when you got to collect the mud, and then you got to collect the straw, you got to put it in the mold, and then you got to set it out to dry in the sun. In fact, if they lacked materials to meet the quota, the slaves would be punished for it. So the quota goes up, or the quota stays the same, but the resources aren't there, they're going to get punished anyway. And of course, this corroborates brick-making process quotas and abuse as described in Exodus. So again, this comes out of Egypt. This is not, you always hear people saying there's no evidence for the Exodus, there's no evidence the Hebrews were ever there, I don't know how they miss this stuff. Now, granted, this is circumstantial. It doesn't directly say these were Hebrew slaves. It doesn't directly say from Egypt these things. But when you put all these pieces together, you go, there's too many coincidences here.
There's also evidence from the Egyptian pantheon of gods that shows that the writers of Exodus knew Egyptian theology. We're gonna go back to plague number 1, but I'm just leading off here with the 10th plague because of the phrase in Exodus 12:12, I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Let me say this right now up front, that the plagues were not random catastrophes on Pharaoh and his people. The plagues were judgment on all the gods of Egypt, because each one of the plagues appears to be a slam, a judgment on the gods that the Egyptians worshipped. Moses must have known Egyptian culture. How did he even know about all these gods? How? Because he was there. That's why. Basically, this is almost like a playground taunt. My God can beat up your gods.
Something called the pure papyrus. And we talked about this a couple of years ago, and we talked about archaeology. I want to revisit it because it's so amazing that I don't think there's any other way you can conclude that they're talking from Egypt about the plagues. Because this pure papyrus, there's only one of these manuscripts in existence, and the date range on this is somewhere in the 2nd millennium BC. So this would be anywhere from a 600-year range. Some say as early as 1800 BC, maybe as late as 1200 or 1300 BC. The Exodus, we believe, took place in 1446 BC. This is also called admonitions of an Egyptian sage, meaning there's somebody in Egypt writing this papyrus, and you'll see what it says here in a minute. It lines up almost exactly with the plagues. Moses struck the water of the Nile, and all the water was changed into blood. The Egyptians dug along the Nile to get drinking water because they could not drink the water of the river. The pure papyrus says this: the river is blood, yet men drink of it. One thirsts for water. Also, Exodus says blood will be everywhere in Egypt. The pure papyrus, pestilence is throughout the land. Blood is everywhere. Death is not lacking. How about Exodus 9? The hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on your livestock in the field, on your horses, donkeys, and camels, and on your cattle, sheep, and goats. The pure papyrus, indeed, all animals, their hearts weep. Cattle moan because the state of the land. Exodus 9, a little later, and the hail struck down every plant of the field and broke every tree of the field. A pure papyrus, lo, trees are felled, branches are stripped. How about Exodus 10? The locust came up over all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt, such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been before, nor never will be again. They covered the face of the whole land so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Not a green thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field, through all the land of Egypt. The pure birds find neither fruits nor herbs. Exodus 12, the people of Israel had also done as Moses told them, for they had asked the Egyptians for silver and gold jewelry and for clothing. And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians so that they had let them have what they asked. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. So the Bible's saying, before they left, these Hebrews said, hey, Egyptians, give us some treasures as a parting gift. We need some treasures. Give us your jewelry. Give us all that stuff. The pure papyrus, what does it say? Gold and lapis lazuli, silver and malachite, carnelian and bronze are fastened on the necks of female slaves. Poor men have become owners of wealth, and he who could not make sandals for himself is now a possessor of riches. Coincidence? Doesn't seem to be, does it? All right, how about Exodus 10 again? So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Okay, so it's dark, right? The pure papyrus, the land is without light. How about Exodus 10:7? A little earlier, Pharaoh's officials said to him, how long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go so that they may worship the Lord, their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is ruined? All is ruin indeed that has perished, which yesterday was seen. So a pure laments the utter and sudden destruction of the land. How about 12:30? And Pharaoh rose up in the night, and he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where someone was not dead. Plague of the firstborn. The pure groaning is throughout the land, mingled with laments. Lo, many dead are buried in the river. The stream is the grave. The tomb became a stream, and he who puts his brother in the ground is everywhere. Indeed, every dead person is a well-born man. Those who were Egyptians have become foreigners and are thrust aside. The children of princes are dashed against walls. Coincidence, right? A archaeologist, Christopher Imes, said this. He sums up the whole thing here in one quote. Researchers simply don't know the original dating for this document. It varies across a span of 6 centuries, and the latter end of the date spectrum may indeed align with the events of the Exodus. And as shown above, both documents complement each other so well. A river that became blood, pestilence, crops, livestock, buildings devastated, fire and darkness, well-born offspring dying, lame duck magicians, slaves pillaging the riches of masters, and a shepherding people whose initial presence in the land culminated in cataclysm. How could this not refer to the same event? How could it not? But there's no evidence for the Exodus. There's none. They keep telling you that. You know what they're doing? These people are allowing their paradigm to do their thinking for them. Oh, this is a closed question. There is no evidence for the Exodus. So no matter what evidence comes before me, I'm going to say there's no evidence for the Exodus. I'm not showing you all of it. These were just 5 or 6 lines of evidence from Egypt. So the Great Sphinx, which comes from about 2500 or so BC, maybe 2600 BC. Think about how old that's 4,600 years old. That's just, it's hard to believe, right? In any event, this stela right here was added at sometime in the 1400s BC, about, say, 1100 years later. Again, it's about 12 foot tall. It's right there between the paws of the Sphinx. We think it comes from about 1424 BC. All right? It tells King Thutmose IV, again, not the firstborn son of the Exodus Pharaoh, but another son, on a hunting trip, then resting by the Sphinx and having a vision or a dream. What did this vision or dream tell him? It said that if he cleared the sand from the Sphinx, the throne would be his. The throne would be his if he clears the sand from the Sphinx? Why would he need to do this? Why would he even need to put this inscription up?
Do you see the implication here that the Sphinx itself was built around 2500 BC?
That stela, the dream stela, was put in 1424 BC. When was the Exodus? 1446 BC. Who was the pharaoh? Amenhotep II. Amenhotep II himself was not the firstborn. Somehow he got to the throne. He wasn't the firstborn. So when the 10th plague came in, he didn't die because he was not the firstborn. But he had a son who was the firstborn and vanishes from Egyptian history. We don't know what happened to him. That's why, as Mito just said, the second-born son had to put this stela up in order to give him legitimacy, to make him a legitimate ruler of Egypt. So this is circumstantial evidence that Amenhotep II is the pharaoh of the Exodus. His firstborn son has been killed in the plague. His secondborn son said, oh, now I have the throne, and I'm going to say that Ra gave me a dream that authenticated my claim to the throne, and that's what that dream stela is saying. Our friend, the great Joel Kramer, put out this video. And he is an archaeologist. So this video just came up just a couple of days ago. This video, after one day, had 500,000 views. Joel does great work, and he went to Amenhotep II's tomb. In Amenhotep II's tomb, when Leray went in 1898, he went way down into this tomb. He had known it had been looted because a lot of the valuables were gone, but he went down to the sarcophagus, and in the sarcophagus was the mummy of Amenhotep II. And then off in another room was this mummy, known as Webensenu. Webensenu is the first son of Amenhotep II. He was anywhere between 10 and 15 when he died. He also had this lock of hair where they would shave the head of the prince except for one lock of hair and let that lock of hair grow. That would designate that person as the next pharaoh. So if this truly is Amenhotep II's son, why did he die as a young boy? Died in the plague.
The gentleman you see standing next to me in Egypt is our guide, Mito Dito. He's a Christian and he's phenomenal. In this next clip, we're going to be standing in the Egyptian Museum, the old Egyptian Museum, and Mito is explaining to us that the Ark of Anubis, which was built by the Egyptians, appears to have the same design as the Ark of the Covenant. Might this mean that at least the Israelites were influenced not only by instructions from God, but by the Egyptians on how to build their own ark? Check this out.
This one is a replica. How we know the design, how we know the size. It had been drawn on the wall of the temple. So we take the same size and the same decoration and the same elements from the wall and we apply it, and when we finish it, it became like that. If you take this one and you apply it of what we know from the book of Exodus, when God is giving Moses the instruction to make what we called it the Ark of the Covenant. Take this one and think of it, you will find it is copy paste. It is going along with what God telling Moses to do. Even it has here holes or rings where they had a beam, put it inside and they could carry it over their shoulder. So it is exactly the Egyptian ark.
Here is the granddaddy of them all. Go to Exodus 3:15. This is Nomads of Yahweh.
It's like all these institutions are all set up to rob us of our faith in the Most High and in the scriptures, man, you know. So that's quite profound. Most academic and historians will argue and say that there's no evidence, archaeological evidence for the Exodus, but they're actually being dishonest and actually dismissing the evidence, So here's also another thing to consider as well. For people that would be wondering, is the Bible authentic, or is it a true historical account of history? Here's also just another proof as well that there's never ever been any archaeological discovery that contradicted the historical accounts in the Bible. That is also quite significant and fascinating if you think about it. So yes, when it comes to the discoveries of ancient ruins, there's never been a discovery of an ancient ruin that basically contradicted what's in the Bible. So I'm just gonna take a look at this next slide. So I'm gonna look at a sarcophagus, and there are also some critics of the Bible. Some so-called, what also frustrates me as well is a lot of these people are our people, so-called black people that will be talking trash about the Bible, which is actually our true history book, when it is taught in its proper context. And a lot of their critique will be that there's never ever been any historical discovery of any of the people mentioned in the Bible, like any of their remains discovered. But here is a sarcophagus of who is believed to be the priest Caiaphas, that was the one who sentenced Yahusha to be crucified, which is that's next level, man. So I think we're getting towards the end of our lesson. So we've covered quite a lot of things in this blockbuster of a lesson, and I hope that you found this lesson edifying, because a lot of this information, personally, when the Most High showed these things and revealed these things to me, I was pretty mind blown. So today we also took a look at some of the things we took a look at was, the mentioning of pork and why the Most High says that it's unclean, it having parasites and all of that, and being the number one cause of trichinosis in the world. We also took a look at the cycles of the moon and how the new moons and the full moons, how nature is more active, and how it also corresponds with how the Bible also talks about it being the holy days of the Most High. We also took a look at the codes and gematria in the scripture in Genesis, and how it matches up with the atomic numbers of our DNA, and also how the numbers also in Genesis as well, how it also links up with the electron shells of atoms, which basically it goes to show that reality in itself is encoded within the Torah, and that the energy of the Most High is what sustains matter, is what gives matter its weight, is the divine energy of the Most High manifesting into the physical. So that I want to give all glory and praises to the Most High. Thank you all for tuning into this lesson. I hope you guys once again found it edifying. We're just going to take another short clip, just take a look at this. But with that, just want to say Shalom. Give thanks.
The science of electromagnetism. It is the Holy Spirit. It is the force that creates everything that exists, whether it be up in the heavens or down here below. And that's what the human body is. The human body is just an electrical organism. The brain is an electromagnetic computer. The nervous system is electromagnetic. The heart operates on electromagnetic pulses. The blood is electromagnetic. Every cell in the body, every atom, it has electrons. And that, people, is what the ancients called God.
Everything in abundance, shine a light in abundance, spread the truth in abundance, show them love in abundance, keep the peace in abundance, everything in abundance, His grace and mercy is a bonus, He gave it to us in abundance, look, everything in abundance, shine a light in abundance, spread the truth in abundance, show them love in abundance, keep the peace in abundance.